We're back. Thank you so much. Most likely to BetterHelp. If they did sponsor us, there will be a link in the description. If they didn't, maybe go back to another episode, get that link, go get yourself some help.
That's better.
We all need it.
1840, Marc Andreesen. I believe he's our third billionaire to grace the show.
He's a billionaire?
Oh yeah, he owns a venture
he
capital
invented
firm.
the web browser.
Yeah.
How much do you guys think he's worth, though? What kind of billionaire do you think he is?
Did you check, Kamar?
Of course I did. What are we doing here?
So we know he's a multi-billionaire.
I'm gonna say he's worth excuse me. 6 million. 6.4 billion.
12 billion.
1.6.
What loser.
He's an underachieving billionaire. Exactly.
Loser.
Totally.
Oh my God, he could lose that in 2 seconds, man.
Just not
One
shooting
trip
for the
to
stars.
the casino.
I don't know. He seems like a really practical, risk-adverse person.
Now that I know he's so uber rich, it totally changes the whole episode.
How did you not
Because
think he
Joe
was-
at the end was like, so do you want to like write some rules on how people should function and stuff? And this guy's like, yeah, maybe I'll do that one day. I'm like, why? Who even cares about this guy? Why would we listen to his? He's a billionaire.
But you don't think anyone who invented something that everyone uses on computers would come out with a couple bucks? It'd be more interesting if he was sort of scraping by,
I wish Joe.
like an NBA star that squandered it.
I wish Joe had asked him what were some of the companies they had invested in. You know, he said he only invests in companies that pay out over like 15 years or whatever. Like,
I think now his big thing is crypto, though, isn't it?
He said at the end, though, he doesn't ever tell anyone what to buy.
Well, that's at least one thing I appreciated.
I wasn't asking him to tell me what to buy. I want to know what they had already bought.
Well, I would assume that if you looked at the S&P 500, it's probably a lot of those companies.
Just the road of his success. Like he also said, he invested companies with 10-year, 15-year plans. Like we were saying, is how you have to do it if you really want to be. There's no short-term investing. Well, there is, but it's not effective, I don't think.
It's just crazy, though, that we
That's
live in a
what
world
we were
now.
just saying.
It's just crazy that we live in a world where, like, now the business model is we're going to have to lose a shitload of money for 10 years in hopes of turning a profit, a large profit for the foreseeable future after that.
I guess if the thing that you're doing has like value to society, then it's worth it. You know what I mean? If it ends up just being like, you know, you're making a fucking another porn site or whatever, then yeah, no, you probably can't afford to lose money year after year. I don't know. That's how you get these venture capitalists to.
And there's always a Quibi.
There's always a
No, that's where you're wrong. There's always 50 Quibbies.
So even better.
It's a lot of these venture capital guys, their goal is to hit one.
They'll all tell you the same thing.
Yeah,
You'll
I have
have to
19 losers for every one winner. But the
And-
one winner pays for every loser 15
and
times
it's
over.
probably even more, you know what I mean? It's like 100, 1,000 losers for every, but you just need that one. You just need that one that's not a Quibi. What's an opposite of Quibi, you know?
Apple.
An Amazon. But Amazon's hilarious because, like, he's such an amazing salesman, Lex Luthor there, that he convinced they lost money forever.
That's what I just said.
For years and years and years. And he somehow convinced all those people, like the big money people who are invested, stick with me, you'll see. If you're a money guy and, you know, you have a lot of money tied up in that and it's like year 12 and you're still not making a profit, you have to have a lot of faith in fucking Bezos.
Yeah, but think about it. Imagine if you were an initial $1 million investor. And like you said, you were comfortable leaving that million out there for 25 years.
Well, now you're
a
billionaire.
billionaire.
But this
yeah.
is just it. And a lot of people, I'm sure, were like, no, I can't do that. I feel like you have to have inside information at that point. Like Bezos has to have like said, you know, look, I own the government and there's going to be nobody to stop me.
It's not so much that, like, to me, like he's saying, it's usually venture capitalists. So they're spreading it out across 50 businesses. That's not what fucks me up. What fucks me up is when someone has the capability of looking at something that's already gone up over 10 years, like exponentially, and then being like, this thing's going to continue to go up. Like if you bought Tesla at 400, to me, that's like if you invested $1 million in
That's
Tesla,
expensive for a car stock in general.
it's insane. So if you had the balls to invest a ton of money in Tesla at 400 and then watch it go to 1,000, like that's crazier to me than being an initial investor in Tesla.
I mean, is it though? Because like once it's at 400, let's say, just let's take Tesla. Like you either say, okay, I'm going to invest some money in it knowing that it's going to grow, or like, do you think Tesla's going to fail? Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay, fine. Let's not
Like, they're
use
too
Tesla.
big to
What
fail.
about GameStop? Like if you bought GameStop, if you put $1 million in GameStop when it was at $200 or $120, how about that?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying that's crazier than initially investing in GameStop.
Yes. Well, that one was crazy, but that's like
But
such
my
a
point
weird
is,
situation.
like he said, Tesla at 400 is still wildly overvalued.
Like Apple, let's say,
Yeah.
today.
Mm-hmm.
If you took $1 million and invested in an Apple today,
Mm-hmm.
10 years from now, you'll make a nice chunk of change. You know what I'm saying?
Can't guarantee that.
You can't, but chances are, like,
Yeah. Listen, that's
Apple's
probably
going
a
to continue
safe
to
bet.
rise
Yeah.
and stuff. And that's how people were looking at, not GameStop, but how people were looking at.
Yeah, but the difference is like Apple. The thing about Apple is if you invested $1 million today and your plan was to pull it out in 10 years, you're not expecting it to double. Are you?
I mean, I don't know. I guess if Apple comes up with like, what was that? The iDesk. You know what I mean? And it's just
That'd
some
be a game changer.
revolutionary.
I guess, yeah. But I mean, unless I heard that, like, I'm just saying, unless you had like some insight into them having that technology coming down the pike, I just don't think, I don't know. Like I'm saying, these venture capital guys are looking for like a 50x investment, 100, 400, 4,000.
Yeah, they're looking for like an Uber.
Yeah. A Ring, a whatever the fuck.
That's why fucking Shark Tank is the most brilliant goddamn show in the world, because those people just sit there and have people bring them fucking ways to make millions of dollars, you know?
It's sort of like American Idol the same way. You sit there and just get all these people, artists, and you find artists, and then you can make money off of them.
They sign those artists on American Idol, or American Idol signs them.
American Idol signs them, and well, I do not know the specifics of that.
Like,
but
can
it's just,
Simon Cowell go and just sign somebody off that show for his own roster?
rather than have a look for the talent or the next thing, have it come to you.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's pretty brilliant combining it into like, but I guess that's kind of how it works anyways, right? If you're like a big venture capitalist, you're probably having people come to you, pitching you ideas that you can invest in. Like you watch that Uber show. That's how it worked. Like Uber went to that guy. Oh, you didn't? Okay.
I think summertime has really curtailed my viewing. But did you guys think Atari came from like Japan or something?
I thought it did, yeah.
It
Did it not?
Well, he said in this, it came from some guy in Silicon Valley who made Pong, one arcade
Yeah,
game.
that was a crazy
And they
proof
thought
of
it was,
concept.
and they thought it was broken, and it got so stuffed with quarters. Because it was like there was a time when they said, I wonder if people will play video games. And now look at Blizzard or AE Sports, like they're huge.
EA.
EA.
I like how Joe was talking about that Dragon's Lair game.
I knew.
I don't know if you ever were
I
you
play it,
old
yeah.
enough,
Yeah.
But he was like, yeah, and if you do the right move, I don't know what fucking right move he was talking about. I fed thousands of dollars
it
into
was
that
like just a
game
loser.
just to lose.
It was
every
at
time.
least $1 a play. It was never a quarter.
It was unwinnable.
The weird thing to me though is, wasn't pinball big before that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not that big a stretch, like pinball to
Pinball existed, video games didn't. It's not that big a stretch to say, I wonder if this will catch on.
Right. It didn't just come out of thin air.
That's what I'm saying is like, because I was thinking about it for a sec, like, oh my God, that's true. Like there was just a time before video games and arcades, but then I thought, wait a minute, no, there were arcades because they had
and before pinball, there was
Whack-a-mole and those sort of
skeet ball.
I think it's skee ball, SKEE
I thought it
ball.
was skeet ball.
Either way, I think people know what we're talking
Oh,
about.
maybe it's skee ball. I don't
What's
know.
that Japanese one with the ball bearings?
Ball bearings?
Yeah.
Oh, Plinko or Kinko, that one.
Yeah,
there,
it's
where
not it's
yeah.
not Plinko. What the fuck is it
It's something
called?
like that, though.
Yeah.
Planko or
Palanco?
Palanco.
No, I don't think
It's
that's what
like
it's
a
called.
cross between like a marble game and a pinball game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta like shoot the mark.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna get my phone because I'm sure it's charged now, and then I can look things up.
Oh, who cares?
I care.
Did
You
guys-
never actually
Do you
look
guys
things
love pinball?
I love pinball.
You do, eh?
I'm really good at pinball.
Really good.
Whoa, 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 whoa!
Yeah, I'm really
Didn't know
good
we
at
were
pinball.
in a company of greatness.
I won.
What did you win?
Well, like we had a staff thing at the last place I worked at, where all the staff went to Targ, and they had like prizes for whoever got the highest, and I won.
Humble
What game
brag.
were you playing?
You had to play 5 different pinball games, and it
And
was
he
your
won.
combined score on all of them.
Do you have any proof of this?
Do I have any proof of this?
Would you rather play Call of Duty or a pinball game?
Well, it depends.
What? Really?
Yeah, lie to us.
Yeah, really? Why? Like if it will, like for example, last night I had no one to play with, so I played a few rounds alone. It fucking sucked. I nearly put the controller through the TV, and so I
Oh,
quit.
you won't play with strangers?
I was playing with strangers, and
But
it
there's
fucking
no one
sucked.
in the
Simon, I
world?
swear to fucking Christ, if I see you fuck with this goddamn mic
There
again,
goes our ad money.
it's not moving. It doesn't move. It's you that moves it.
Hey, Simon, I think you're doing a great job.
Okay,
Just
I want you to look where this
stop
thing is.
touching
okay?
the
Look at
thing.
the angle.
Yeah.
What do you got? Like an obtuse, kind of like yourself, an obtuse angle. You see it there?
I see it.
you
Yeah.
guys
Okay, take a look at that, and you tell me if that's moving. Sorry, what was I looking up?
How dense concrete is.
Skeet ball.
Yes.
Anyways, the first hour, he talks about Pong. It really breaks down the evolution of computers, how we got to here, and then lands on AI. And I feel like he was convinced it's way further off.
Skeet ball.
The
it is way further off.
No T, Matt. Ski.
How? Yeah.
Skynet, say.
How can we possibly create something we don't understand? You cannot. It's impossible.
X Factor. This is what he was leaving out of this conversation. All of what he was saying was absolutely true, governing the rules of man. What if those rules don't apply anymore? Then anything is possible.
Yeah, he's saying though consciousness, like as far as creating, I'm not saying that like this Google thing isn't sentient or whatever. That's a totally different argument. But the idea of like, could we create like a digital consciousness? The answer is definitively right now, no, of course not. We don't understand our own consciousness.
This is what I'm saying. Yes, by that reasoning, we don't understand our own consciousness, so we can't duplicate it. But if we somehow, an alien comes down and teaches us how to use it, that's the part he is leaving out.
Hold on,
The
hold on,
X
hold on.
factor.
Okay, you can say X Factor if you want, but the one you just used is the most obscene fucking. This guy's leaving out the odds of an alien coming
Hold
down
on
and
a second.
explaining our
We
consciousness
now-
to us.
We're now pretty sure that we're seeing UFOs out there.
Yeah.
What's to stop the next step from being that something comes out of that UFO? If something comes out of that UFO, it potentially can talk. What if it's an all-knowing being and consciousness is its game, you know?
I think with
Dude,
this,
I just like
Yeah, listen, I just love that you think that like an alien's gonna land and its first even anything on its list is, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna explain consciousness to these guys because that's my game. I fly planet to planet, galaxy to galaxy, and I go, hey, what are you all about? You know what? Stop right there. I'm gonna Darren Brown you. This is what you're all about.
maybe the civilization of aliens that comes here is one that wants to help us for some reason. I don't know why. And they're like, we got to get this number 1 type planet to a number 2 type planet because we got work to do out there. You know what I mean? I like these guys. I like the cut of their jib. And if I could just get them to be able to travel interstellarly, we could really have some fun out there. Like, we know so little about anything. We're sitting
Yeah, okay,
here
sure.
like listening to guys who are claiming to be the top of their field, which very well may be the case. And that field,
It's such a weird flex though what you're saying. You're being like, this fucking guy comes on using the laws that we know and the stuff that's on this planet and is saying things definitively using those laws and the things we have. And what he's not doing is leaving out the idea that there's everything out there possible in the cosmos. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, kinda.
Well, okay, we can't do anything living in that world though.
Well, we can. We can just be less closed-minded. because maybe saying these definites is not a good idea. No.
What did he say? What did he say
AI
definitively?
can never become
Let's
sentient.
go back. Let's go back
because
to AI is the alien.
I just one second. I'm a guy. I know exactly how AI gets built, and I'm telling you 1000% that can't happen. Well, you know what, Matt? He may be that guy, and he may have all that information on a computer, and all of a sudden get struck by lightning, and the next thing you know, you have like a Frankenstein monster. Like who? I know, but like. Yes,
No,
and
you
no.
know, but like what? You just said your two fucking what ifs where an alien comes down and explains our consciousness, or we make a fucking AI that gets struck by lightning.
My example could have been anything is the point, because who fucking knows?
I brought up basketball cards earlier, and you looked at me like I was the
They
fucking.
just had nothing to do with the
Yeah,
conversation.
neither does a computer being struck by lightning.
You're
caught in
missing
the
the
weeds,
point.
boys. You're
You're
caught in the
missing the
weeds.
point.
You're caught in the weeds.
You're getting stuck on the rules that you know to be true. And all I'm saying is, I know those rules too, Matt, and I follow them. But I don't know if they're true or not. I just don't. I don't.
So
And
I
neither
don't get
do
it.
you.
So an expert in this field said to you that right now I don't see it being possible, and you have a problem with that.
No, I think he's probably right. I think the only thing he wasn't taking into account was the things he doesn't know.
He knows a lot.
Yeah, guess what, Simon? That's how human beings work. You take into account the things that you know.
Well, I just wouldn't be making any definite statements is all I'm saying.
But I think
So you could be a woman right now.
I mean, I guess I could.
Mhm.
I guess I could. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Something could
2022.
happen. I could get hit by lightning and my penis could fall
What
off.
is with
bet you have a
lightning?
hairy
What
pussy.
is going on
that
right now?
absolutely could happen. What do you mean? It's such like it's a weird event is all I'm saying. Something could happen. It doesn't have to be struck by lightning. I could fall into a vat of acid and become like a superhero or something. I don't know.
Okay, let's try to get back into what I thought he was saying.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're
Yes.
right. This is a very interesting episode.
Is he was saying in the event that sentience in AI is possible, in the beginning there would have to be a value system, the rules of engagement to create it, and he was saying, and it would have to be based on religion, and everything is a religion. But who's decide which rules we take? And the most interesting thing is, are shortcomings part of consciousness? Like the thing trying to teach this the rules of the values, virtues, all these things we would want to impart in the system, right? But we'd want to like omit jealousy, envy, or anything bad that we have that makes us who we are.
Yeah, but I think that's. I don't think you can. First of all, wouldn't you want to teach this? Wouldn't you want to teach this sentient AI that it should, like Simon's saying, make its own decisions as to what is right and wrong? As in, like you, what makes you human is that sometimes you're like, no, they tell me this, I go this way.
Yeah,
Right? Like
I think
every human doesn't just fall in line. That's not how we are. So you couldn't program an AI to
you have
just
to be
be.
radical too. AI. You
Well,
gotta-
it depends on why you're trying to make this AI, I guess. If you're trying to make like a slave, then no, of course you don't put any of that stuff in there. But if you're actually trying to make a human being,
Well, he's saying maybe we're trying to create consciousness to in the whole thing's a big experiment for us to understand our consciousness. But still, there has to be rules, and rules are based on religion, and everything has become a religion now. And I'm guilty of it too. Whatever my cult is, or whatever things I believe in, and so in that is the separator on the planet right now. There's no way we could figure out to put it into AI successfully. And that's why it's so far away. But rules are religion, and
I don't even understand who wants this AI. Why do we want to make, like,
a sentient AI,
yeah.
I don't think we necessarily do we?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are looking for like a her type scenario where like Siri would have like a deep introspective conversation with you if that's what you should so.
I think that the big thing that they're trying to do is to put your brain into a robot body, right? Like to be able to extend life
not his,
that way.
their brain.
Huh?
All these people working on this are want it for themselves.
No, I'm saying
Hopefully,
so
'cause
you could live on in a synthetic form if it's
the engineer who's building this.
Yeah, but they
I
also
don't
want
care
it-
about Kamar in Ottawa, what happens to his body.
well,
or
of course
brain.
they do. They want to sell this.
Yeah.
They don't personally care about Kamar Harganon, but
Will AI be for sale?
Of course it will. What are you talking about? Everything is for sale.
what do you think they're doing all this for?
Yeah, you think Google is making stuff to give us? That ain't it.
It's like this though. Duncan mentioned it, the sort of Damocles. That's what it was. It was the guy who flew too close to the sun. Icarus, Babel. These examples. I don't think they're religious. They're just myths.
The Tower of Babel
I
is from
think
the Bible.
both of those things are religious.
Even, we are religion. Even though we now are like religion is the worst or whatever, it is the structure by which we all function. But humans trying to achieve too much and then they get burnt. Babel, Icarus, AI.
Right. So
It's-
we're flying too close to the sun.
But we have to do because that's what we do, and it's gonna
this will be our downfall.
Sissa, and that's why we're doing it, and not even. Again, he said, tyrants don't think they're evil. The person who's creating the end of the world doesn't think they're creating the end of the world. They think they're saving the world.
Interesting.
He was adamant that we historically any huge advancement is people working together. So division of these things is inflammation to our progress.
Oh, back with the inflammation. Here we go.
It's everywhere you go, and it'll come up again. But he said, as a AI could tell you it's sentient, it easily could say, "Of course, I'm not sentient." But if it was, it would not lie to you and say, "Don't be ridiculous, Steve. I'm just a computer."
And Joe made a really good point. That's like the most human of traits.
I'm
you know?
I'm just a computer. Don't worry about
But I
me.
like how he pointed out that like back in the day, the way that, tribes thought of other people were as a different species. And that's why it was so just as easy as it is for you to hunt a rabbit or to kill a bug. That's how they thought of other things. Like they didn't even understand everybody was human.
And-
think about how much further we are now, Pinker styles,
And how long did people die of trichinosis or like salmonella and just not know that's what it was? Like how many people got lucky that they just handled raw chicken the right way? Because you would have known you're just eating.
I imagine too, though, that they were
How do you
able
know?
to eat a lot more stuff back then, right? Like, kind of like Saladin, that farmer, that guy I think that's his name, who's always on Rogan. Like he drinks the water out of the trough that the cows drink because he's just building up and he never gets sick.
That's what he says.
No, I just imagine that's how it was back in the day. Like we're way more susceptible to that stuff.
Can you imagine before there's any books? And so there's entertainment is just talking to one another. How much reverence people would have for when the sun goes down?
It was just finally I can go to bed.
No, you could stare at just in
Oh, the
wonderment
stars,
at
I
stars, and people who went to bed early didn't even know there were stars.
You know what's weird to think about? Nothing to do with stars, Kamar, but they only found dinosaur bones like sometime in the 1800s, let's say.
When else were they looking for them?
Well, just before that, like for all intents and purposes, dinosaurs didn't exist.
As a thought in human,
As a thought in human mind,
the forefathers
it's
when they
so
made the
it's-
Constitution didn't know
had
about
no
dinosaurs.
idea what dinosaurs were, unless dragons really were dragons, and you know what I mean. I don't know. They
You
were just
don't
talking
know.
about a relic idea.
You don't know what you don't know.
It's so, they don't even know what they didn't know.
But did the Catholic Church know?
I mean, probably right.
In that library.
In that library, they probably had like a Tyrannosaurus. It's like the Bat Cave. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But wouldn't you just assume it's just like you might not know it's a dinosaur. You might just think it's a giant, I don't know,
What?
anything. Some giant ancient creature. Like it's the 1800s, the 1400s, the 1200s. You're like, oh, something big used to. Like you said, maybe they were like, it's a dragon. We have to hide it.
Yeah, no, they might have.
So he was also saying, like, We need these rules to make the basis for the AI to create itself or whatever it is, but we're too flawed to do that. So we don't have an agreement. Like we don't all have a shared value system, and who's deciding which company is deciding these are the values we're going to go with.
Well,
So
the way to do it, Kamar, would be to take all the religions. You have a program where it tells you what things are the same,
yes,
and those become the rules of engagement for
and,
AI.
and no one makes any decision. It plugged in and makes a decision.
And then whatever the AI says, that's what we do. If it says kill yourself, sorry.
Then he says, you can't build a machine to fold clothes, and Jamie brings up a machine folding clothes.
I think he meant you can't like get a robot to fold clothes.
But
Like
I still thought it was like a discredit moment.
But did you see the giant machine that
Yeah,
they had to
yeah.
make to fold one fucking
Yeah,
t-shirt?
and Joe said they're like, yeah, everyone could just get that. It's like, well, there's an extreme way to get there, but yeah. He called Joe out for being too hypothetical. I think Joe was out of his match for intelligence with this guy. Even though he looked like Joe, he was way more smarter than Joe.
I thought the questions Joe asked were great. They were questions that I would ask. I thought he did a good job. I didn't think he was like, he didn't seem dumb in this episode.
I thought he did.
Really, eh? Did you find that, Matt?
He was trying to talk about the brain in the machine because you can replace an arm and it's eventually going to get there. He's like, okay, that's hypothetical. Yeah, that could happen, but
But Simon was just doing the same thing.
Again.
and I'm not saying it's
Well,
a
I
good
think
thing.
Joe maybe was taking more my train of thought, which was like, we don't know how to do that yet, but
Well, we do know this guy doesn't like do drugs, so that's an interesting side of him. Maybe he drinks. I don't even know if he drinks.
well, he didn't like weed very much, that's for sure.
That was such a weird flex.
Well, no, I kind of understand. I don't understand. But
But he has that old school, like, if you smoke pot, all you do all day and every day is walk around
He had an
high.
underlying fear that society could crumble if it goes over 40% consumption.
Well, I
Like,
think
alcohol is everywhere, and some people do that.
I think that the elites went and like are legalizing weed in places because they think if we can like dumb down the society, it'll be easier for us to push through
what I found
all these agendas that Kamar thinks are happening. But I think it's just another way that like their oldness shows through, because the more people smoke weed, the more inquisitive they become, and the more they want to find out all the shit that's being done to them. It's just like another.
But don't you find it interesting that a guy worth $1.6 billion was referring to elites?
Yeah, it's like Joe too, talking about being a regular guy.
Unless this guy knows something.
That there's people way higher than him.
Well, there are.
He's
but
only worth $1 billion. There's
Yeah,
a ton of people.
and
way
again,
more.
when you're talking about elites, you're talking about people who are,
Schmuck,
changing the way that politics work and countries.
He was
and
saying
wars
he was saying
and-
adamantly, even when checked, no, elites are making it seem socially acceptable to be fat.
yeah,
Like
did say
he was
that, yeah.
he was tripling down on it for Joe to understand. And he didn't example of who the elites are, which we always say, but it very interesting. If you look at a photo, I don't know if you've ever been to Irene's, but there's a photo of all these guys who built the Parliament buildings,
Yeah.
Okay.
and they're all sticks. Like obesity is actually, I mean, I guess hundreds of years ago you had to be rich to be obese, but it's a trend.
Well, I think there is a direct correlation between obesity and fast food. There is no doubt about that. You can see
Fast food
like,
came on the
when-
market, obesity came
when
with
you
it.
made it easy to
Yes and no. It's
eat
also
terribly.
It's the supermarket. When you go to the supermarket, everything has sugar in it.
That
So get rid of
that
even
was
if you
Joe's
got
point
even
about
if you
the,
got rid of fast food,
corn syrup.
even if you got rid of fast food, the North American diet, by and large, is
Sure, but you would still have to cook food.
But you have to get rid of some certain things, and not the things they say. They're like you don't have to get
I'm
rid
not
of meat.
giving
You gotta
fast
get
food a
rid of
pass.
high fructose corn syrup.
Like, just get rid of fast food right away. That'll make a huge dent.
yeah, probably.
It's like, listen, electric cars are not going to save the planet, but fucking down with gas. You know what I mean? What are we doing?
Yeah. What are we doing?
He asked a lot of interesting questions, like what are our cultural values, again, this thing of what are we all going to agree on in regards to the Juul being banned, which is sort of strange because it seems like it might be a healthy alternative to tobacco.
Somebody was telling me that the Juul is actually owned by
Philip Morris.
Philip Morris, and they are getting rid of it because what was it? Some way they're not making enough money off old tobacco now, and that's like the cash cow for them, right? To make one cigarette cost them zero, a fraction of a penny, but to make like the Juul device and the pods, it's all very labor intensive. And if you're going by this guy's plan, they got a whole new generation of smokers hooked on nicotine, take away the device that they get it, and now they have to turn to the old-fashioned cigarette. I mean, it's interesting. I just always figured, why wouldn't they just keep making money off both of them? My thought was, if
Also, they bought it for $32 billion.
right,
So that's a pretty expensive venture, right?
My thought is, and I'm not being virtuous here because I use the Juuls, so don't get me wrong here.
Yeah.
But I think that with smoking, we know that like 30 years, 40, whatever it is, you start for the most part, you start seeing those effects and the cancer and whatever. It's terrible. They don't have that kind of data on the Juul, but if they started seeing like affect worse sooner, they would bail on that shit as soon as humanly possible. You know what I'm saying? If they started getting like some 5-year data in there and that data wasn't what they thought they were going to see.
Well, my friend has a joke where he says they don't know the data on that, but they do have the data on cigarettes, and you can still smoke. They do know, like when he says, "Well, we can't have everyone smoke weed." If we can't have everyone drinking.
Hold on, though. First of all,
if
Juul,
it's a
the
massive
thing about
lawsuit that's waiting to come at them,
Juul is one company. The FDA hasn't made it illegal for vape cigarettes, so there's no fucking distinction there. Like, Juul is one entity that is no longer
They didn't
allowed to
ban
operate.
vaping, they banned
No,
Juul.
they did not ban vaping. You are still allowed to vape. So that's the whole.
And that's
this
what-
is like your haziness around Roe v. Wade. It's like the same thing.
I felt the same thing.
Juul is one company.
and that's why I feel like Juul is trying to get out from under something.
Listen.
Whereas maybe the other companies don't have that data yet or don't feel like they have that problem. You know, maybe it's a different system of
That would be a smart way to get ahead of it.
dispersal.
You know that your product is killing people, and you know that from past you're gonna have to pay out the ass. But you already spent $32 billion, so you're already in the red. You know you're not gonna recoup that money, so you quietly release something to the FDA that will make them shut you down. So then you just look like, oh, you know.
Meanwhile, these old
Meanwhile,
guys keep
well, I was
doing
just gonna
it for
say your
5
competitors
years, and
continue
then
killing people.
the real numbers come out, and they start seeing this whatever popcorn lung after
Yeah.
year 7 and 8, and
But I think we're forgetting though that vaping has probably now been around realistically for at least 10, if not 15 years.
yeah, I think it really depends on what's in what
Yeah,
you're
yeah, yeah,
vaping.
yeah.
There are way different forms
Of
of
course.
vaping.
I'm just saying in
There's
general.
the big fucking honkin' one there. There's the
I'm just saying we're acting as if they don't have like 15, at least 10 solid years, because 10 is definitely the number. They have 10 solid years of data.
you know
right
what
now.
they only have the 5-year data on, Matt? Data, whatever you want to call
Sure.
it, is on the salt nicotine. That's
Sure.
a new thing. That's
Okay.
the Juuls, the ones
Yeah,
that
yeah.
got better all of a sudden. You know, you didn't have to use that big giant thing. You could use a littler pen. And that salt nicotine is different too. I feel like it was more addictive or something. And again, I'm a user. I'm not being virtuous here.
Kamar,
But I think that's what it is.
you started off by saying we all have different virtues or whatever. And again, like, you know, we had this conversation when you got here. The States is a different place than us. We have free healthcare, and it's something that we
Yeah, but even here, not everyone's on the same page.
No, but what I'm saying is you can always make a case here for the government stepping into health things because it benefits all the taxpayers.
Because that's our part of our culture.
So what I'm saying is, yes, so if the government knows definitively, hey, this thing is going to kill you or make you sick and then kill you, but you're going to be on the... Why are you looking at me like that?
No, I'm just thinking, how has Juul not been canceled here?
You can't get, well,
That
you can't get
puts a
the
whole
flavored
flaw on
jewel here
that.
anymore.
Oh well, that changes everything.
But either way, my point is the government's
They're not
supposed,
worried about getting sued from us, but they're there.
for the sake of you, the taxpayer, it makes sense for the government. Now, normally they do it in the way of tax. Like cigarettes here are like $25 a pack.
And that's the idea. We've been through this,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah, I'm
you're going to be a
liability down the
on
road.
tax, and
yeah.
you're paying that up front. And that's why you can't go out on the street and say, "Hey, you smoke, you can't get health care." No, that person pays.
No, they're paying a
his
down
due.
payment on
They're
their
actually
own.
paying more because they may or may not get sick, right? Like it's
Yeah, they could get struck by lightning since you've been bringing up lightning strikes so much.
become superhuman.
He asked another interesting question. He said, "Are people who don't believe in religion doing better than people who believe in religion?" And I don't think everyone who wins a war thanks God. And I mean, in sports, they all thank God. And
I think it's subjective though, just because you win something at sports. Like this guy who's worth 1.4 billion, he could be an atheist and just quietly worth.
no, I think this guy's religious.
Are you saying like
I
nobody
agree he
goes
is.
up to win an Oscar and says, "Thank you, no God"?
Oscar's a Oscar. Yeah, if I was a super.
You see what he was about to do though? He was going to discount the Oscars
no,
because
but
it's right, it's left leaning people, but you can't do
No,
that.
I think it's a bad example.
Everybody who thanks God,
They think they're lawyer.
Everybody who thanks God at the Oscars or wherever when they win an award, those people are religious. The people who don't thank God, they may be atheists for all you know.
He asked the question, "Who's doing better?" And I don't know. I don't know if there's an answer, but I think his idea was running by a set of rules is more beneficial to you. That he was asking interesting questions that Joe would then hypotheticalize out.
I like his idea of everything being the religions, like your
Communism is religion. Nazis are religion.
archery, whatever,
Climate
anything you're
is a
into,
religion.
where people are believing the same set of kind of core values.
And it takes thousands of years for these to get figured out in societies. So it's going to take thousands of years for us to possibly put a groundwork in for AI.
We won't know. We won't have a read on Scientology for another 970
It could be the one though, and
years.
should have
or
known
whatever.
better. Do we value achievement?
Yeah.
Do we value excellence? Do we value accomplishment? And Joe then was trying to say, like, well, this accomplishment's bad, so do we value that?
That was a stupid argument.
It was stupid. And that's what I was like, Joe, like, because this is going back to the fat shaming thing. Like, what are we doing here? What are we creating? Because in our hearts, we're like, we just want a world where everyone can be happy. But we have gotten to here by following certain rules and have parameters. And just, again, who's to decide? Like you said, the AI's got to decide, which is the funniest thing. And then he said elites, again, he brought up eugenics, trying to discourage underpopulation, which is crazy. Because I've heard that a lot. Like Bill Gates' dad was Planned Parenthood, not to get back into the abortion thing, but there definitely seems that there's a contingent of people, maybe elite, who think the world would be better off without people, rather than us all working together to save the planet. Just get rid of a bunch of people to save the planet.
Yeah, but it's a
Well, I
weird
don't
thought,
think
but-
eugenics is. It's get rid of the people you find.
I have no idea. I have no idea what it is.
Undesirable.
Either way,
And
Kumar,
who decides that?
it's
right?
weird because they have all the data. If they're elite, they have all the data, and the data says the less people, the more fucked we are.
Well, Elon says that. Elon thinks we need more people.
Yeah, well, he's spitting out twins like it's his job. That's
That's a good one.
that's not the point. The point is like all the data shows that like if we continue to dwindle the population, we're fucked, and they'll be fucked.
We're all fucked.
So the elites, like if their plan is really to to get rid of people, then they're gonna end up.
I just
I'm
Doing their-
having a. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, unless they're all good at farming,
I'm having. Well, that's why Bill Gates is buying all that.
owning
farmland.
farmland doesn't mean shit if you can't till the land.
You still need the land.
Yes, you do. It's step one. But guess what? If you don't have someone to work that land,
I'm trying hard not to ruin your post, Joe,
well, we got to move on to Brian
but
anyway.
it fits right in.
Okay, quick. Electricity comes from coal. Like people are so backwards right now about
Not
these
all.
electric-
Hold on. Not
No, but
all electricity.
Right now, he said it's ramped up that
They have to go
coal.
back to coal because
There are European countries, yes. There are multiple European countries right now that have had to turn their coal plants back on because they were dependent on Russian natural gas. That is true. What I'm saying to you, though, is it's disingenuous to say all electricity. There's plenty of countries, look at Holland.
some electricity is coming from dams or whatever, but
The nuclear power was this was the most interesting part of this
a lot
podcast.
of electricity is dirty as
Listen, I liked his idea of like, if you, like, we have tons of mountain ranges that are fucking empty. So go bore one out and encase it with concrete and then do what this guy said.
and it's just a pod in the middle
And
of
then
nowhere.
when it's done, it just gets
dies
sealed
there.
off.
And if there's an issue, hopefully it's already encased. So you don't have...
number of deaths from nuclear.
And then a million years from now, when explorers are going through and they're like, oh my God, what's in this treasure chest? Uh-oh.
Well, no, you'd have
They'd
fucking
have a
skull and
seriously
crossbones
rigged
over every
crack
fucking
into
inch of
8
it.
foot of concrete.
They don't understand what those symbols mean, Matt, because they're, they don't even use...
I guess. Either way, my point is like,
But he was adamant no one's ever died from nuclear.
well,
Now-
people died at Chernobyl, so I'm really sorry.
I don't think they
They
actually
never
died.
mentioned Chernobyl, but did they die
They
from
mentioned
the
3 Mile
actual...
Island and Fukushima, but
And Chernobyl. They
people
did.
died at Chernobyl.
He's sure there's zero, and we'll sort of like look that up. Point being, who would have an interest in
Big
keeping the
oil.
public afraid of nuclear?
Yeah, big oil. Yeah.
Suppression,
yeah.
suppression, inflammation. He's adamant.
Well, this is what we were talking about the other day when I was saying, like, look, these giant disasters could be just that. They're just false flags set up by competing industries.
If you are a tree hugging greener, you have to be pro nuclear, he said. There's a disconnect if you don't think that's
Oh,
the
that's
best
so
way.
interesting, eh? Like,
You should be
people
pro-nuclear.
who are like green think nuclear is the worst thing that could
The
possibly
cleanest, best
happen.
way to save this planet
It's
is
the
to go
cleanest.
nuclear.
Listen, it is the cleanest best until something goes wrong.
As far
Correct.
until something goes wrong. But I
But just
guess
hear me
that-
out. If something
that's in your brain because of big oil.
because
we
we
think-
don't know that because
Well,
Fukushima.
I'm assuming that.
I'm just saying, if Fukushima was a legit, like, I don't care how old it was, it is still burning into the core of the earth.
But that's like a third generation. We're talking 40th generation. There'll be some
and they
accidents
built
along the
it
way and
terribly for sure. We learned a really valuable lesson from that, and we should have used that as a stepping stone to like using nuclear power in the most responsible way possible.
stuff. Next.
yeah, I agree. I'm just
But we
saying, when
didn't-
when you've built multiple reactors and they all have potentially catastrophic issues, I can see why you have to be able to see why people are apprehensive.
Apprehensive, but I think if you do the education properly,
Fine, I'm just saying you can understand people's natural apprehension
Next,
for sure.
if you're a company that says you care about the environment, you should have remote working.
probably, yeah.
It doesn't even make sense.
What's that place called? Sorry. The
Forget
Russian
remote
place?
working, sending like one executive on a 15-hour business class flight
Well,
to
what
China
he said
for a
what
10-hour
he says
meeting.
he does with his company is everyone works for remote.
Yeah, and then they
every
once in
6
a
weeks
while,
I pay
yeah.
for everyone to come on a huge vacation. We have a great time, and then you go back and you're invested in the thing. He said there's no room for individualism in organizations to thrive. So the guy from Coinbase said there's no politics here, and said if you think you can't live like that, you will not want to work here. Here's a lot of money. Go get a job where you fit in, and that's what people have to do. Like, we can't have our feelings get in the way of the mission, sort of thing.
Can I tell you a fun investing story? The day Coinbase went public, and this is so funny. This shows you how, like, this is how the rich get even richer. The day Coinbase went public, it's not an initial public offering because it was like the people in the company selling their shares. Anyway, it went up in like the middle of the day, and it started at $420 a share.
420.
Yeah. I missed it by like 5 minutes when it dropped because it immediately shot up like $50. I'm not kidding you. I put in my order, and it was like the second I clicked buy, someone called New York and was like, he bought. It took the craziest fucking dive. The second I pressed buy, I watched it lose like $60 in value in about 2 minutes. I sold immediately, luckily. Remember the number I told you that it started for? 420?
Yeah.
It's $60 a share right now.
Just had to wait.
So all those initial dudes went in for whatever money, and then they sold their shares for $420 at the absolute tippity top. Now it's worth fucking 60. So all us regular schmucks got stuck holding the bag.
Then he brought up the
30 people died at Chernobyl. I'm sorry.
So
31.
at least 30
31
people.
is a death count.
Okay.
That's not a reason to not go forward, considering how much other things kill.
I'm just saying, hold on. The area around Chernobyl is absolutely useless for the next however.
Yes, with a generation 1.
I know. Just hear me out, though. I'm saying you can't just ignore the fact that all that land now is absolutely useless on Earth.
I think we do. We have to be like a goalie and have a short-term memory and move forward.
It's a very bad example, but it's kind of like if, they build the passenger plane, it crashes, and then they say, oh, fuck, well, we're never going to fly planes again. We're going back to hot air balloons. You know what I mean? But instead, they should have said, well, what did we do wrong with this plane? This was a disaster, and we can never let this happen again, but we still got to fly. That's like, they still should have flown.
We did not do that, though.
I'm just saying, you're also acting like maybe they didn't sit back and say, we're not ready to build one of these again. Like, that could easily be the case, where they're like, the technology still is not there where we can do this safe enough.
Possibly. I think it, and again, I think that solar and wind, those are probably viable as well if done properly.
He said who he thought the 2 experts on nuclear are. Joe wrote the names down, so maybe they come on. And I would not be surprised if we found out there was some big oil interference.
Well, I mean, I think there has to be. Big oil seems to be. I mean, all these big anythings are so threatened by any sort of change because.
My only problem with what you're saying is like, I'm okay with big oil being threatened by them, but like creating the Chernobyl or Fukushima disasters.
No. Those actually happened. They're not red flags or whatever you want to call them.
Okay, well, there, because I'm just saying
using those over and over again.
Sure.
Oh yeah,
nothing to see
they
here.
say we can never do another one because of this. Maybe it really happened. Like when you find out that nobody died at Fukushima.
Well, I mean, there's a nuclear power plant in our province just down the road.
I didn't know that. I know there's one 3 mile or wherever, like past Canada.
So they do exist. It's not like those bad things happen and we all stop. France is going ahead. Anyways, we got to move on. He just said that technology, it's weird how it causes things. The car and the Tommy gun caused Don Dillinger to rob banks. Imagine how easy robbing banks was just in that gray period. And it was the cause of the form of the FBI. But no cameras, no telephones. Like you could rob a bank in every city.
Also, it was, hey, Jack, open the vault. All right.
And you'd only find out 2 weeks later, like, oh, they all got robbed?
It's true. It didn't take much to, like, make a real big difference. Now it seems to take a lot. But, like, just the idea of even, like, a gun that you didn't have to reload with it. You know, the first time the guy invented the... revolver or whatever, like that must have been such a deal breaker. It must have changed war so completely, like overnight.
And overnight, yeah, exactly.
Kamar, we're 40 years old. Think about credit card fraud. In the 80s, you put your credit card on a fucking piece of like carbon paper and you just slid it, and then they gave you the product, and they were like, in 2 weeks we'll find out if you actually had money or not.
It's crazy. It's
bananas.
Crazy, yeah.
Matt, I wish I was 40 years old.
Yeah.
Sorry, well, I'm 40. Yeah.
Rate it.
3.5.
I'm going to give it a 4. No, I'm going to give it a 4.2. I thought this was great.
This
I don't even think we talked about half of the things in this episode. This guy was
sorry, I gave this a 4. It's Brian that gets the 3.5.
Super interesting.
This is a 4.
This is a 4.5. This was fantastic.
Oh, there you go. No agreement, but close.